So we're going to be working through a couple different positions that will be really beneficial in labor, as well as some of these positions you can birth in. And some of these positions you can also benefit from doing these things before labor even starts to help get baby into a good position. And before I show you those, I want to talk through some different things that we should keep in mind when thinking about positions for labor. So that first one is we want to make sure that we are working with gravity and not against gravity. And actually, most positions do work with gravity, other than lying on your back. Lying on your back is going to be a difficult position for mom, but also for baby, because baby does not just come straight through you. Baby comes kind of angled down, and then right when you get to the point where you're needing to push, baby actually pivots and starts coming up this way. And if you're lying on your back, then baby's actually having to come uphill. And so you want to make sure that you are not making it more difficult for baby to come down as they're coming through you as well. So work with gravity, and then also be mindful of how you are opening up your pelvis. So with your contractions, as your uterus is pushing baby down through the birth canal, through your cervix, it's important to be mindful of how our pelvis is opening up, making more room for baby. So there's a couple different things we can do to help open up our pelvis more. That first one is getting into a squat, which I actually don't recommend doing that much because you're going to wear yourself out. But there's a lot of ways you can imitate a squat without actually squatting and wearing your muscles out in your thighs. And so getting in what I like to call squat-like positions, because you actually open your pelvis up by 30% more whenever you're in a squat-like position. Another thing you can do to help make room for baby as your uterus is pushing down is rocking your hips from side to side, because you're opening up a little space on this side, a little space on this side. And that is so helpful for baby as they are doing what is called the cardinal movements. And essentially they're inchworming their way down through the birth canal as your uterus is pushing down on them. And so making a little room over here, a little room over here is going to be so helpful for them. And so squat-like positions, rocking your hips. You can also even do rocking your hips by doing hip circles on a birth ball. And that type of movement is also going to be opening up your pelvis in a way that's going to benefit baby. And working with gravity. And then lastly, making sure that the positions that you're in actually feel good to mom. A lot of times a certain position will feel better than others. And although it can be good to kind of switch positions up and to just constantly be moving throughout labor, there's oftentimes one position that feels better than another. And that's your body communicating to you that there's a reason why this position feels good, because oftentimes it's also good for baby. So be in tuned to what feels good out of the different varieties of positions that you can be in, and be paying attention to that. And even though there might be a certain position that for the majority of moms in labor, this feels good to them, it might not feel good to you, and that's okay. Don't just keep doing it because, oh, this is what other women typically think feels good for them in labor. So be in tune to listening to your body. In just a moment, I'm actually going to walk through quite a few different positions, along with different things that a labor support partner can do when you're in some different positions to also be a benefit to you. So that you can actually see these firsthand, what they look like. But keep in mind that this is by no means every position you can labor in, every position you can birth in. We're just going to talk through a couple different ones that are going to be really helpful. So the first position that we're going to look at is something that you'll need a support partner to help you with. And so we're going to have the mom be on hands and knees, and the support partner is going to do what's called counter pressure. So you would only benefit this if from this if you were experiencing back labor, which is where you are feeling the intensity of the contractions in your lower back more than in front. And it can be so helpful to counter that intensity by pushing back on it. But different moms benefit from that counter pressure in different ways. So practice the different ways and see which one you prefer. While you practice, obviously, you're not going to understand the true benefit of it until you are experiencing back labor during a contraction. But it's good to practice ahead of time just to know, okay, we have this in our toolbox if needed when labor were to start. So, mom, get on hands and knees, and then your support partner is going to find those two bones that are on your lower back that stick out. And if they're not quite on it, you can help show them right where. So right here and right here. So the first one is by using thumbs and just pushing directly on those two lower spots on your lower back. The other way is with palms. So you've got more pinpoint pressure or more overall pressure. You can also do constant pressure, or you can do circles. So try circles with your thumbs and try circles with your palms and see which one you prefer. I personally prefer thumbs with constant pressure, but different moms are different. So try each of the different ways and see which one you prefer. So that is counter pressure. And you may like it to be pushed harder as the contractions intensify. And it can be helpful to have more than one support partner in case their hands start to get worn out from pushing on your lower back. This next one is called Baby-sifting, and you would use a rebozo for that. This is not an authentic rebozo, this is just a scarf, but it's about the same size as an authentic rebozo, and this is oftentimes a wonderful tool to have on hand at early labor in your own home, and then depending upon where you're birthing, you may want to bring your own, or they may provide you one. So it would be good to check up on that. So this is something you can start doing now in third trimester, and as well as during labor. So you're going to find the top middle of the scarf and put that directly under your bust, and then completely encompass your baby in the scarf and bring the bottom part of the scarf all the way to the bottom part of your belly. And then your support partner behind you is going to grab each end and make sure that there's not any slack, that they have all of it in their hands. And you're going to get on hands and knees, making sure that the top is all the way up to your bust. And then they're going to just very slowly start to pull up. And this should feel amazing. It should be like they are holding all of the weight of baby for you, and it should feel really great on your lower back. And communicate with your support partner whether you want them to pull up more or if that's too much. So you can actually even pull up more. And most support partners are surprised at how much mom wants it pulled tightly because it just feels so good on their lower back. So go ahead and make sure you have one hand on one side and one hand on the other when you pull. And then this is just pulling baby up, taking the weight of baby off your lower back. But for Baby-sifting, you're going to slowly pull one hand up a little and then the other. And you're wanting to kind of rock baby back and forth. You don't want the scarf to be slipping on the belly. You want to slowly move the belly. Start out slow. Make sure that this feels good for mom. If at any point it doesn't, then don't do it. But if it does feel good, then you can start going even a little bit faster. So go ahead and increase your speed, and you can go even a little bit faster. Yeah, and so you can start going at a pretty fast pace, so long as that feels good to mom. That's good. And what that actually does is it helps baby's head engage with your cervix, and it helps get baby deeply into your pelvis. I will say though, if you have a placenta that is in front, it is okay to baby sift, but they don't recommend that you go fast. They only recommend that you go at a slower pace. So keep that in mind if you do have a placenta that is in front. And again, if at any point it doesn't feel good, then don't do it. All right, we'll use this again in just a moment. But the next thing that I want to show you is called hip squeezes. And sometimes this can be hard to do if you don't quite know what you're feeling for. And so if you feel confused by trying to figure this out on your own at home with your support partner, the next time you are with a midwife or like a doula or someone who would know what hip squeezes are, try it next to them and have them see, and you can even have them do it on you so you can compare to see if it's being done correctly. So this is actually, many moms love this. And again, you're not going to understand the true benefit of it until you're having a contraction. But this is one of those ways that you can be in a squat-like position, essentially, without doing any of the work. And your support partner is actually doing all the work for you. And so a hip squeeze, they're going to be squeezing in on your hips, but also up. And it's going to actually just slightly open your pelvis in a way that you're not going to feel baby's head on your pelvis as intense during a contraction. So mom, to practice this, go ahead and get on hands and knees. Your support partner is going to come in behind you, and they're going to put their palms right where your femur bone goes into your pelvis bone. And then their fingers should be pointed towards your shoulders. And so they're going to squeeze in with their palms and then up. And it should just feel like a slight opening of your pelvis if they're doing it correctly. That's great. If you want them to squeeze harder, you can communicate that. Just moms, keep in mind that that is actually a pretty tiresome workout for your support partner, constantly squeezing in on your hips. So again, it can be beneficial to have more than one support partner. If you do really love hip squeezes, but your support partner is getting tired out, there is a hack. Many moms still prefer hands over this hack, but maybe just for a short while to give them a break, you can use this. So you're going to take your scarf or your rebozo, and you're going to fold it into fourths lengthwise. It will end up kind of rolled and bunched, but try to start out with it folded and not bunched. And you're going to wrap that scarf around where they were pushing on your hips, and this is actually the key. So I'm going to stand up for just a moment to try and demonstrate. A lot of support partners will then tighten it right here and then pull up, and it slips past their bottom and doesn't stay where it needs to. So you want to actually pull it really tight under their bottom and then pull up so it stays right where it needs to. And then there's also a way that you can use a wooden spoon to make it a little bit easier, and I'll see if I can show that on video. So go ahead and grab these. I'm going to get on my hands and knees and go ahead and tighten it really tight. Yep. And then pull up. Tighter even. So, yep. There you go. Yep, like that. So that should be a little less work for your support partner, but one thing that you can do to help it even be less tiresome on them is if you use a wooden spoon, put it where the scarf is overlapping, and then overlap the scarf over the wooden spoon so it's almost knotted right on your bottom. And then once it's knotted by the scarf, you can use the spoon to twist and make it as tight as you need to be without using your muscles. And so go ahead and turn the spoon to try and tighten it. Good, yeah. And so that actually made it a much tighter than what you were doing with just your hands. And is that less work for you?
Yes.
Yeah. So actually having a wooden spoon to use as leverage can be really beneficial. So that is a hack for doing hip squeezes to help open up your pelvis a little bit more. And then we'll actually use this for one more thing. So actually two more. Another way that you can get in a squat, and actually in early labor, since that's the least intense of the different phases of labor, is usually when I recommend doing more squats, because you've got bigger breaks in between your contractions during that phase, and you usually feel strong, you're not worn out yet. And so if you're like, yeah, I'm feeling strong, I want to get a lot of progress during my contractions, getting into a deep squat can help make a lot of progress, but I always recommend you do it supported. And so a way that you can be in a supported squat is if you use your scarf or rebozo, and your support partner is going to wrap it around their shoulders. Yes, around your shoulders, but you're going to do it in all the way around. So this is what I don't want. I don't want your support partner to wear it like this, because then all of your weight is going to be pulled on their neck. I want them to make sure that it's like fully wrapped around their shoulders and their upper back. Yep. And then you are going to grab the slack, and they're going to get into like a stance to kind of support your weight. And you can wrap your hands around this, and then you can get down into a squat. Go ahead and take a step back and put one leg behind you. Yeah, there you go. And then you can like get into a squat, and they can support your weight, but you're not going to fall over, and you can just rock your hips back and forth and go through a couple contractions that way, but still be supported while in your squat. So that's another way you can use your rebozo. The last one is going to be for what's called belly lifting. There's two ways you can do this, and depending upon heights and arm lengths, usually one works better than the other, so try both. We'll do the rebozo one first. So again, you're going to encompass your baby belly completely into the scarf. So the top middle go right under your bust. The bottom middle will be right under your baby belly. Your support partner is going to grab the slack, making sure that the top's tight and the bottom's tight. And then they're going to make it really tight and pull up. And this should be lifting your belly, helping to take all the weight of baby off of your lower back. And it should feel really good. So that's one way you can do it. You can also just use your hands. So your support partner can wrap their hands around your belly and just lift up on baby belly like that. And sometimes you can just like slump into them and let them kind of hold your weight. But by doing belly lifting or baby lifting, this again also helps baby's head engage with your cervix, and it can help make a lot of progress with your contractions. So then some other different positions you can do would be labor dancing. So that would just be where you're facing your support partner. You can face like this, or I usually like to just slump all of my weight and we just like will rock back and forth and breathe together, and I'll rock my hips, and that can be a great way to make it through a couple different contractions, especially if you're like walking a park, or if you're at the hospital or a birth center and walking the halls. That can be a great way to work through a couple different contractions. Another thing that can be really nice is being in a leaning over position. And for many moms, being in a position where they're kind of leaning over and belly's kind of hanging, so it's taking the intensity off of their lower back, feels really good. So you can prop up a birth ball onto a bed, or you can also have your support partner become a table for you and get on hands and knees. Yeah. And then you can lean on them like this and kind of rock your hips back and forth, or you can even put a birth ball on them and lean on them like this and rock your hips back and forth. But being in a standing leaning over position can feel really good for many moms. You also, for many moms, they love laboring on a toilet, actually, because it's a lot of those same muscles when you have a bowel movement for pushing a baby out. But if you are going to sit on a toilet to labor, I recommend actually turn around and face the tank, prop up some pillows on the top of the tank, and straddle the toilet. That way your back is then available for counter pressure and hip squeezes and massages, and your team can be all surrounding you, breathing with you, giving verbal affirmations, and your back can be available, and lower back and hips can be available for support that way. And then lastly, if you are getting tired, it can be really great to lay down and rest during your contractions, but we recommend that you do side lying instead of lying on your back. So I talked previously about how we don't want you to lie on your back because you're working against gravity when you do that. But if you're side lying, you're not working against gravity anymore because baby's no longer having to pivot and come uphill. Baby's just coming around your pelvis to the side. And so side lying can be great, but you're going to want to put something in between your legs so that you're opening your pelvis up, giving more room for baby to make their way down and through. And usually what that item is a peanut ball. So almost every birth center and hospital has peanut balls, so you can just request one of those if they didn't already bring it to you. And if you are planning on birthing at home, I would strongly recommend buying a peanut ball to have at home during labor, because it can be so helpful to just be able to rest in between contractions and during contractions if you're really worn out. So those were by no means all of the different positions that you can labor in, but those were many of the different ones that a lot of moms gravitate towards, and some different things that labor support partners can do when you're in different positions that can really help make a lot of progress and help the contractions not be quite as intense.